suspensions. It's
All right, can you start with the date that's earliest in the school year? So going back to August. And the court's already heard from Ms. Pickett about some things that have occurred, but as far as what's in these school records, would you just give the date? And just kind of a brief summary. We're going to submit these to the court. Just kind of a brief summary of what happened and then what the school's action was, action step.
okay. So it looks like on September 1st, Delara broke the teacher's foot. And
Yeah, I would object. Is this being submitted as an exhibit as well? Can I have a copy of that one?
She brought it under subpoena. I don't have another copy of it.
Could I get a copy so I can follow along?
Yes, if
All
we'll
right,
get
let's go
copies.
ahead and make a couple copies, and I'll ask her a couple questions while we're doing that.
Anything else we need copies of while she's going
I'd
there?
say do 3, and then she can.
I'm saying, does she have any other records that you asked her
No.
that we need copies of before she goes back?
All right, just a couple questions while she's doing that. You, during your direct examination, used a couple of acronyms, and I want to make sure we have those properly in the record. You said a BCBA. Can you tell the court what that is, please?
a board certified behavior analyst.
All right, now, is that a person who is employed by the school or on contractor as a contractor that comes into the school?
Well, Metro employs a team of BCBAs, but Gower actually is the only school that I'm aware of that's not a special day school that employs our own BCBA,
Okay.
which that position is vacant right now, so we don't have one at the moment.
So you have a spot, but you
We
don't
have
have
a
one.
spot, correct.
Now, this Wilhelm, I believe, is she not the BCBA?
No, she's a special education teacher,
All right,
and Delara's case manager.
okay. And who was the BCBA for Delara?
Well, Kylie Talbert held the position in the fall. And she actually held it basically from January 2016-ish. She went out on maternity leave for a couple of months, I want to say August, September, about October. She came back for a couple of weeks and then decided to stay home with her child.
Okay.
But she was involved with Delara at times in her tenure at Gower.
Okay, so, but just in this school year, am I correct about that? She didn't work with her?
She probably helped a little bit in the spring, but I couldn't say specifically.
Okay.
Because she was in the building.
All right, and you also use the term gen ed. Is that general education?
Yes.
So when you refer to gen ed and talking about like the IEP, what you're talking about is that general education curriculum and activities, basically being within the classroom. Am I correct about that?
Yes, in her
Okay.
homeroom.
I would like for you to explain to the court a little bit about when you talk to Delara, how do you communicate with her? How do you approach her and communicate with her?
Well, like I said earlier, she responds best when you connect with something that she's interested in. So I'll typically, she likes Pokemon in particular. I might ask her if she's working for anything at times. Earlier this year, I think, in an effort to help her behavior, she and her father had different contracts, for lack of a better way to say it. If you're good for a week, then you might earn whatever. So I would ask her, what are you working for? Or something completely different. Just, what'd you do this weekend? And she might tell me something about that.
Okay, do you find, as far as just like her adeptness at communicating, her ability to express her thoughts and talk to you once you engage her in a conversation, how would you find her to be? And I don't know if I'm asking my question correctly, but you deal with all kinds of kids, elementary from what, kindergarten to 5?
Fourth grade.
Fourth grade?
Pre-K through fourth, yes.
Okay, so you see kids in a class setting, like just say the second graders, some of them are better at expressing, just having conversation with you. Would that be a correct statement?
That some are better than others?
Yes.
Expressing, yes.
Okay, so, and I'm not asking you to give an opinion as a psychologist or anything, but just in your day-to-day experience of working with children, what level do you find Delara to be at as far as her just ability to have a conversation with you and talk to you once she's kind of calmed down?
Well, yeah, once she's settled and we're talking about something that she's interested in, she's sharp. She comes up with some very interesting angles.
Okay, so does she, when you say that, can you think of an example or something of?
Not in particular.
Okay.
No.
Okay. All right, let's go back to the behavioral detail report then. And you had said September 1st, and you said she kicked the teacher.
And she broke the teacher's foot that day. Actually, I believe that shows she flipped the chair and the chair slammed on the foot and broke the foot.
All right, and does it show in this incident report what action the school took?
I don't see one on that one, a resolution.
Okay.
Actually, local discipline is what it says. Honestly, at the time, we didn't know that she had broken the foot. You know, she threw the chair down, which is not completely uncommon for her. And so in the resolution 1, it says local discipline, which
Okay.
means we handled it in
All right,
the
and let's
office.
go on up the chart. So
Okay.
let's go up to, and we're going backwards from the last page forward, right? To the front page. Now, I see this event, next one, it says 303 non-comply. Do you have the date on that? Because it says that she was suspended.
Right, so the assignment, it happened on the 26th, so she was suspended on the 27th of September,
Okay, for how long?
1 day.
All right, and what did she do?
It just says refusing to follow the teacher's instructions.
All right, now tell me about this system. Who enters this information?
The way that it is supposed to work, this is new this year. So the teachers are supposed to enter the discipline referral from their desktop computer. You can imagine how timely that is when they have 20 other children waiting to be instructed. So that can happen anywhere in that day. And then as you see from this one, this says submitted by Barbara Frazier, who is our principal, which to me indicates because it went to a suspension, she just went ahead and entered it.
Okay, so, all right, let's go on. The next one up is, looks like October 12th.
October 12th, local discipline, repeated, it just says code 200 is repeated violations. So the description is about Delara kicking a boy beside her, pushing his chair with her feet. She pushed his chair into the back of his knees.
Okay, and then and what was the remedy or the
Local
action?
discipline.
All right, let's go to the next one, 11/16, it looks like.
11/16, out of school suspension. Details are during the time the adult was trying to de-escalate the situation, student hit, kicked, and bit the adult involved. So suspended the 17th and 18th that was a 2-day suspension.
All right, and go to the next one, looks like 11/29.
11/29 was the local discipline. Miss Kirkpatrick is a fellow second grade teacher. Says, stopped me in the hall, said that DG was having trouble. Stepped in the hall to see her standing in a threatening posture of her classmates, staring at her. She then raised her hand and hit the girl in the back of the head. And I intervened, moving her to the rear of the room. She began to scream, so we left the room.
Okay, November 30th.
November 30th, local discipline, no participant detail, and a conference with both children. So spoke to bus driver. DG will be seated in the front of the bus. So it sounds like a bus incident.
And that was entered by Juanita Moore, who's that?
Oh, there is, okay, I'm sorry, there are incident details up there then. She is another second grade teacher.
Okay, and moving back on, November 30th.
November 30th,
It says when Delara came to class for RTI, what's RTI, please?
response to intervention. So every day we're required to have a period of time where kids are basically divided into groups at their level. And Delara is actually an enrichment group. And so she had some trouble in that class. It looks like she ran away at one point and was feigning leaving the building, but doesn't look like she did.
Said stood outside the doorway, right?
Pushing it open, but not leaving the school is what I'm reading from at the bottom. School counselor was nearby and intervened, talked through the situation, eventually walked her back to class.
And then the next one, November 30th, Ms. Pickett.
The 102 noncompliance with request.
Yeah, this one, right here.
Okay, yes. Delara didn't want to do a math drill. She crumpled up her paper and threw it at another child, stomped out into the hall. Later lied to the guidance counselor, saying that she put her paper on a table far away from her and underneath the morning work she chose not to do. Placed the paper directly in front of her, told her to write her name on it, but don't start until I tell you to. We made eye contact. She stuck her lip out in a sullen way. When she left, I called the office for help, stood in the doorway watching her until the assistant principal came for her. So that looked like local discipline.
All right, and the next one, December 13th, 2016, by Ms. Pickett.
Is that this, at the top of the page, 10 here? Okay. Delara threw a pencil as we were signing into SchoolNet, which was just a school program, and ran out of the room. One of the teachers helped with netbooks in the hallway, took her to the office. I was told by other teachers in the hallway she screamed all the way down the hall. So that was a description of school and local discipline.
All right, and moving next to December 14th, 2016, that was entered by Ms. Pickett.
Student refused to leave the classroom to go to art. Assistant principal had to come to get her and take her to the office. Yeah, so non-compliance there.
All right, next one is January the 9th, 2017, entered by Ms. Pickett.
Okay, it was also entered as non-compliance. Student kept calling out, "That's stupid," during morning meeting, wouldn't complete any work. At math time, about 12:50, she left her desk, sat in the front of the door to the hall, knocking against it. The teacher asked if she wanted to talk, if something was bothering her. She refused to talk to me, as she had all day. As I was talking to the class, she started yelling at me to shut up. I went over to her, but she was not willing to cooperate. I called the office, advised them that she was disrupting the class, and she took off out into the hall. So the office was called again, and the assistant principal spent over an hour with her.
Okay, the next one appears to be January the 11th,
Yeah,
2000.
I would object to just going through and reading all these. Could we stipulate there are a lot of behavioral issues just for the sake of time and let Your Honor read them since it's
No.
been submitted?
No.
What is the purpose of reading them into the record if they're already admitted into evidence? I mean, we'll be here for 3 years.
No, we're not. We're almost finished with them.
It doesn't serve much purpose. They are entered into the evidence as exhibits. I will read them. I'll read all of the exhibits,
Are
and
you
I'm not
sure?
sure. I'm positive.
I'm going to quiz you on it.
Quiz me. Quiz me.
I'm going to say,
Quiz me.
you heard her. Okay,
Quiz
so you're
me.
not going to have to read the rest of it.
Okay, terrific.
I've known her a long time, too.
Fantastic.
She used to beat me up when she was in the DA's
I was
office.
a DA. She was a public defender. I had to keep
And I
her
read
in line.
I read everything then too.
I had to keep her in line.
Very good.
Oh, let's mark that as the next exhibit, please.
Did we already do that? No. All right, that's exhibit number 5. Miss-
All right, I
Miss-
did,
She doesn't like that number. She's looking at me. Okay.
Okay, because I have, number 1 is the spelling test that was supposed to be emailed. Number 2 is the school calendar. Number 3 was the IEP.
I think that, I don't know if I ever
I
passed
think that's-
forward a copy of the IEP. I think that might be the issue. I had a
Yeah.
note to make sure that happened.
Okay. All right. I think we're all caught up then.
And so how are we going to label both of the educational records, Your Honor? Because one is the more recent one, I just put old and recent in my notes.
Okay.
Because they're both educational records, so.
Well, one's the educational record, one's the discipline report.
Okay, so that's how.
Did Mr. Guider bring to you or bring to the school, to your knowledge, a restraining order back in September 2016?
I couldn't recall specifically.
Okay. I have no further questions for her.
All right, Ms. Mack.
Yes. I'm sorry. Can I stay here?
You most certainly.
Okay. Ms. Pickett, congratulations on
Ms.
the.
Getz?
I'm sorry. Ms. Getz.
No problem.
Gower, you testified earlier that you have a board-certified behavioral analyst with Gower. Is there a specific reason why Gower would have that type of service outside of the whole school setting?
Yes, Gower has 25% special ed population and a lot of challenges that are different than most schools. Most schools have about 10% special ed population.
And is Gower under a special umbrella for a regular public school with having that 25% special ed population?
No, I would say our reputation precedes us.
And when we talk about our reputation, with it having that 25% special ed population, are there any additional services that Metro funnels in to your program there?
Well, the BCBA would be one of them. Actually, our special ed department agreed to fund that position partially because of our numbers. And we have 12 certified special education teachers. We have 23 educational assistants, far and away higher numbers than any typical school outside of special day schools. 2 speech therapists, occupational therapists. We have music therapy coming through. We have our autism team. So any resource that you could need, Gower has because of that population. Not all in-house, but at least at our disposal.
Okay. So with that being at Gower, would you say Gower is the traditional metropolitan public school?
I guess in some ways, but that anytime anyone asks us about Gower and what makes you stand out, we were very proud of our special ed department.
Is it more a therapeutic setting there at Gower, the approach?
The inclusive practice, yes, and the understanding.
The what kind of practice?
Our inclusive practices.
Is it inclusive practices because this is a certification? What is that?
I think it is a foundation of understanding and our long record of being accepting of people of all differences.
Okay. And other metro schools don't have inclusive practices?
Not as great as ours,
Okay. So.
but they do have inclusive practices.
There, you weren't here before. There was some testimony in regards to, and I'm paging you guys, there was some testimony in regards to Delara's documented behavior. And what we're seeing here, even in your, not known, but what you brought to the court today in regards to her behavioral, where there's actually some discipline for it,
Mhm.
doesn't really sum up all the things that Delara has done
Not
in
even
school.
close.
Right.
Right.
Doesn't even sum up how often she's hit someone or bit someone or yelled or screamed
Likely.
at someone.
That's quite possible.
So if it were actually documented and she was actually in a non-inclusive practicing school, would the approach have been different with Delara?
Well, I'm going to object. I don't think she can speculate.
Yeah, I'll sustain that.
I apologize. Ma'am, let's go to some actual instances that you've actually had with de-escalating Delara. Has there been any particular episodes where you and both Dr. Frazier have had to de-escalate Delara
Many.
in her violent tendencies with hitting,
Yes, many.
screaming,
Mm-hmm.
eloping?
Yes.
But you all didn't call law enforcement when
No.
Delara was having these behaviors.
Correct.
Did you call the parents?
Most often, but
When
maybe,
you say most often,
I can't say every time, that's why I'm saying most often.
and that's what I'm trying to get.
Yes.
Most often, you testified earlier that once you develop this relationship with Delora, and you have that 25% special ed population, you guys are now, pretty much, you don't call the parents for every issue you have with Delora, do you?
No. We,
Do you call her every time do you call Mr. Gadare or email the mother every time Delora kicks or bites anyone?
no,
Or screams or tries to elope?
no,
Isn't it true you guys just try to deal with it to keep her there at school?
yes.
Because what is the goal for Delora there?
The goal is to have her in her classroom and participating with her classmates and enjoying education.
Now, there's been some question as to why that took so long to get Delora the diagnosis of emotional disturbed. Why did that take so long if she's at a school with 25% special ed population, correct?
Correct?
With 12 certified special ed teachers, right?
Yes?
With 23 educational assistance people. Why did it take so long to get Delora the services that she clearly has been needing?
I would say because of our culture of understanding and working with students, bending over backwards, doing whatever we need to do to keep the kids in the classroom and keep them learning.
At what point in your involvement with Delora did you believe something just more was needed for her? Was it last school year or was it this school year?
No, I would say when it became clearly persistent this fall.
This fall, okay. And you talked about some things that happened in September of this previous school time with the foot.
Mm-hmm.
Is that when it began to be, did I just blame on? Did it begin to become more consistent at that point?
I would say according to the record.
According to the record?
Right, according to I don't know, a sustained escalation, in terms of how many times a day, how many days a week. It seemed to maintain a level that needed to be addressed at a different level. Most often there's a caution to over identifying students.
Mhm.
You don't want to put a label on a child if you don't have to.
But when Delora not only hits the principal, the assistant principal, the teacher, at what point is enough enough?
Right, well, and you have to decide, you have to figure that out. I hate to tell you this, but we get hit and kicked and cussed at almost daily. And a lot of those kids aren't in special ed. So you just have to.
And do you
have to-
suspend most of those children?
No, not always.
There's been some additional concern, Ms. Gibbs, about why Delora was suspended so many times.
This is low compared to the incidence of behavior.
Okay, and so at Gower, do you guys ever expel children from school?
Not in my experience.
So is it safe to say that even if Delora had been diagnosed ED or at an earlier time, or if she had been to, like you keep saying, a special day school, that Gower is the best place for her to get her needs met at this point in time?
Well, if I'm honest, I would say earlier this spring I wasn't sure, but now that she has a plan in place that appears to be making a difference, now I would
Why
say.
weren't you sure earlier?
I couldn't determine how she would respond to an intervention. I guess I should say that. And her behaviors were such that they were a bit dangerous at times,
Dangerous meaning what?
meaning she might hurt somebody else. She had already broken someone's foot. She was not shy to attack administrators, teachers, behavior specialists,
So
anybody.
What was your process of thinking where Delora might have been an alternative setting?
No, we have to follow our steps.
Mm-hmm.
So we just look at next steps. what's next? We got to get the team together, we need to do a psych eval, we need to figure out, pinpoint where the issue is.
So we're not really done with everything for Delara. This is just,
This is the beginning, right?
that we're at the beginning phases of all of this. And when we talked about the BCBA, that was possibly working with Delara last year, at any point, there wasn't an IEP that was put in place in 2016, correct?
Mhm.
This is the first official time that Delara has ever had a diagnosis or an IEP for emotionally disturbed, correct?
Correct.
And that is because of the actual evaluations and the data that has been collected all school year,
Mhm.
correct?
Yes.
And so when we're talking about those interventions being put in place, you talked about something that was so key: home life, consistency for the children works best for them.
Mhm.
You testified earlier when my colleague asked you, had the father ever made any suggestions or recommendations or anything like that to help? Do you recall of anything, any communications you've ever had with the father or the mother about what the school would need for Delara at home so she's better prepared for school?
Not specifically. I mean, Delara would come to school and say she was working for, let's
Judge, I'm
say,
gonna object to the hearsay.
You can't tell me what Delara said.
And I'm genuinely asking you about conversations you may have had with the father or with the mother in regards to what you would need to
At
help
home.
de-escalate Delara.
I can't think of anything in particular.
Do you remember a beautiful little toy in the guidance counselor's office that you guys would use to help Delara de-escalate?
I do.
Isn't it true that Delara really likes toys and electronic devices, correct?
I guess. I don't know specifically. She enjoyed that toy.
She enjoyed that toy.
Yes, she
Okay. And when would it be sometimes where Delara, and this is just from your personal knowledge, that device that Delara so much liked, it would be hard to get it from her, wouldn't it? When it's time
Yes.
to get it,
In
yeah.
fact, I had that situation.
But did it seem to calm her in the setting?
It soothed her, and then it created another issue in terms of trying to get it back.
Right. Isn't it also true that even in those areas where you calm her from the classroom setting, she would tear up the front office as well?
Yes.
Isn't it also true that she would lock herself in the bathroom to keep from having to go back to class?
Well, she locked herself in the bathroom, yes, in the office bathroom.
And when Delara you've seen her try to elope or leave, she didn't really want to go anywhere, did she?
It didn't appear to be the case because she never did.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever had to engage law enforcement or any school resource officers with Delara?
Not with Delara, to my knowledge.
Have you ever had to engage school resource officers with either of the parents?
Yes,
Which parent?
Mom.
Why?
Because of the order for her not to come on campus, but she had one understanding is my understanding, and we were directed to another understanding.
Now, I asked you before, had you ever had any conversations with Mr. Guedere? Correct?
Yes.
Did Mr. Guedere ever call you and say to you, do not allow Ms. Hubble to come on that property regardless of what the order says? He never said any of that, did he?
No, not that I recall.
And did Ms. Hubble or her counsel or anyone representing her come to the school and tell you or send anything to the school saying she was allowed anything other than was in that order?
Right, so we had an order that we needed clarification on, so there was some confusion. Both parents came together, if I remember correctly, to an event, so that added extra confusion if they both came and then maybe one was or wasn't allowed to come. And we're in the position of educating children, that's our focus.
Right.
Our focus wasn't on interpreting the order, so we had the Metro attorney help us,
Okay.
direct us with that.
And after you contacted your legal, what was the plan put in place at that point?
That Mom was not to be on campus.
So did Mom come after you had had that communication? Or
Yes, she
before?
did. She came And I walked with her back out to the car. I said we needed to talk and could we walk outside, and I explained basically what I was directed to do.
And Delara wasn't in her presence at that time, correct?
Correct. It was part of my hurry in having her leave because I didn't know if a transition would happen or if there would be a interaction, so.
In your working, you now have that, by this time, you now have the privilege of working with both the mother and the father, communicating with them for educational purposes.
Correct.
In working with the mother with that interaction that day, did she seem to follow your instructions?
Well, she walked outside with me, but I can tell you that she was not happy.
Okay, what does not happy look like?
Well, she was arguing. She
Okay.
felt like I was not, I was violating her rights. She had every right to be there. I think finally she slammed her car door, and the officer didn't need to intervene. We just had the officer on site in case we needed something, but.
About how long did it take to get her to leave the site?
Well, she walked out of the building with me pretty quickly.
Okay.
But then the conversation outside is hard to tell. I might give it 10 minutes.
Okay. And since that time, she's never returned back?
I remember her on the porch another time, but I couldn't tell you the order of the time. I remember the principal sitting on the front porch with her. I can't remember if it was before that or after that.
Okay. That day, you remember that day, clearly and vividly, okay? After that event, did Delara, to your knowledge, if you recall, have any significant behavioral changes, whether decreased or increased?
I'm not sure I could say definitively, but she was definitely escalated more in the fall.
She was escalated more in the fall. And the school has no personal knowledge, neither do you, of whether or not she was or was not visiting with her mother, correct?
Only when we got emails.
When you got emails from?
Sometimes from Miss Hubble and sometimes from Mr. Goodare.
Now, can you explain the dynamics and the length of some of those emails that you would get from Ms. Hubble first?
Miss Hubble first, they are often quite extensive and often.
Do they have a goal or a request in those emails?
Judge, I'm going to object again. We've already talked about this. Those emails would be the best evidence, and
At any point, has Ms. Hubble ever requested that there be an ST meeting to discuss the concerns that you have or the school has had with Delara's behavior?
I can't remember offhand, but it would have had to be in the emails
Okay.
because that was our communication mode.
You testified earlier that it wasn't until September that a teacher recommended an ST meeting. Do you have any recollection of any other ST meetings occurring in Delara's school term other than the fall and now in the spring?
I would have to look at the record.
And when we talk about your interactions with, you've had, which you said you saw the mother on 2 occasions now, I believe, if I'm saying it correctly. The first time was when you saw them both together.
I did not see them that night, but I was there that night and I knew.
Did you see Delara that night?
I don't recall.
Okay. You testified earlier that, and I want to be clear, is that you believe that Delara had some escalating behaviors in January of 2016, beginning that time.
That's when she came to my attention.
Okay. And when she came to your attention, was it because of violent tendencies?
Yes.
Or was it because?
Extreme disruption. No, it was extreme disruption of the
Was she
environment.
suspended from school in January 2016?
I can't recall exactly. I doubt it.
Okay. And is that because of the way you all work with the children at the school?
Yes, likely.
Okay. Has anything that Delara, okay, so now, strike that. So now where we are, she was getting these suspensions before. before the IEP was put in place, correct?
Mhm.
So the behaviors that she was manifesting, there was no safety guard to prevent her from being suspended that many times, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And even if there had been, she had not had the emotional disturbance diagnosis for her IEP purposes at that point in time.
Correct.
So now, if Delara has any behavioral issues, the process is that you all will convene to determine if her behaviors are a manifestation of her disability, correct?
Correct.
So she won't be suspended so easily as she was before.
Correct.
And not to say that it was easy, however, so the family can understand that there are some protections and some safeguards in place.
Yes.
Has the mother received and been put on notice, to your knowledge, of those procedural safeguards for her child?
I don't know.
And even in that order, nowhere in that order that you recall you read it, did it say the mother, her rights were terminated at any point?
No, in fact, we were directed to share educational records.
You were directed to share educational records, but isn't it also true that the parent has to initiate requesting some of those things sometimes?
I would assume so, yes.
Okay, so when the school has on file a custodian, is it normal practice and procedure that the person that has physical and legal custody of the child is who you all communicate with?
Yes,
Okay, so it wasn't that it was intentional to leave out Ms. Hubble.
not at all.
Okay, so, and when we talk about this meeting in February and plan that was developed in April, in your administrative duties, isn't it true that the person that the child is physically living with can give you the best data to help you develop a plan to help her or
Yes.
help them going forward?
Yes.
Did you find it vital prior to you asking for the school psychologist or the psychoeducational, how you think her name, it's school psychologist, I mean, you whatever, psychologist, to communicate with the mother? Did you at any point think or believe, and you can be honest, that Ms. Hubble could provide any information that would help you all meet the needs of Delara while she's at school? And just be honest.
Yeah, honestly, we would deal with the primary residential parent at that point, so our communications would be with the father in this case.
Okay, and so going on, because you have that ed specialist background, procedurally, have you all violated any laws by not providing the mother a copy of the IEP or inviting her to the ST meetings or the development of the plan? Have y'all violated any laws?
No, not that I'm aware of.
But have you all tried to devise a plan to really help Delara at school? Do you really even care who has custody?
Our concern is the child.
Do you care who has custody?
Oh, well, I care in a global sense, but not specifically.
Okay. You're there to educate this child. Correct?
Yes.
And right now, you can't even tell us whether or not, if she was with her mother or if she was with her father, whether or not we would still be at this table for emotional disturbance, correct?
I couldn't speak to that.
Thank you, that's all my questions.
All right, any redirect?
I just have a couple questions. I had asked you if Mr. Guider had given you a restraining order, and you said you didn't have any recollection of it, and now you testified from the guardian ad litem's questions about there was an order and there was miscommunication, and then she's asked you other questions about an order. I'm going to show you.
So when I said I couldn't recall, I want to be very clear about, I don't know the title of what I received. So your specific question was, did you receive a
Restraining.
blank? Right, so I don't know what it was. Did I have received paperwork, yes.
Okay, I'm going to show you, which is in the court record, what's called a temporary restraining order, and it's got a date stamped of September 1st, 2016, and signed by a judge on September, some date in September 2016. Just see if you have seen that before.
I don't remember a copy with all the strikeouts and the printing.
Yeah, that's pretty noticeable, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. But again, when I answered earlier, I don't know the name of the exact document. We obviously got a document with regard to custody that I shared with Corey Harkey, the Metro Attorney, and she helped direct us on how to follow through.
Okay, so there's a couple orders, but this order that we're looking at right here, and I'm gonna get an extra copy to Mark for the record, and I'll bring it in on Friday morning, but this is called temporary restraining order. It's in the court file, it says September 1st, 2016, and it's got some markings, handwritten markings on it. So my question is to you, do you have any recollection of ever seeing this particular order or being handed this order by Mr. Guider or anybody else?
I don't recall, to be honest. Again, that I would think that would stand out with the markings. Would it be the exact copy with markouts and all the handwriting on it?
Yeah.
I can't recall offhand. I see a lot of documents.
So as you sit here today and you've described this incident that occurred with the school resource officer and walking Miss Guider or was Hubble out, what were you relying upon on that day?
Corey Harkey.
Okay, so you had gotten some information from Miss Harkey of Miss Hubble should not be on the property, am I?
I sent the document, whatever it was. I can't remember the title in this moment, but whatever that document was, I sent it to Corey. Corey read it and directed us.
Because that's what I need to know, what document you're relying on. I'm going to show you one other.
It might be in our email records. Can I read that? Am I allowed to read that?
I think she's,
We'll wait till she brings it. Well, to the sake of time, I'm very, very late. What do you have?
I have a copy of the custody order.
Is that the October order?
Uh-huh.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Okay, I'm going to show you another document, and for the record, it says order. It's marked October 15, 2015, and could you just take a look at that for a moment and see if that's a document that you recall reviewing and or sending to Ms. Harkey?
It would have had to be, well, no, that's December 2014, sorry.
Your Honor, if you could offer her a little bit of guidance, it's the file stamp date, because I think she's trying to read the,
Trying to see if I've seen this before.
Yeah, my only question to her is if she recognizes that order as an order that she reviewed and or an order that she sent to Ms. Harkey.
I do recall reading something about mom homeschooling in bed. That kind of stood out, so this part sounds familiar. Mental health issues. So I guess I could say with, 85, 90% confidence that I've seen this.
Okay, that's probably it. Is that a better statement? It's probably the order that you saw. Who gave you the order? How did it come into your possession?
I think it would have, I can't say definitively, but I would guess it would had to have been Mr. Gadare.
Okay. And was that order placed in Delara's school file?
Yes.
Okay. And then you described the school resource officer involved, and then you described your walking Miss Hubble out to her car. I could not tell from your testimony if that was the same day. Was that the same day?
Yes.
Okay. Was that after Miss Hubble came and had lunch with her daughter at school in August?
Yes.
Okay.
So I want to say that might have been, and I can't remember exactly, but it might have been what triggered the conversation of was she was on campus, was she supposed to be there or whatnot, and then further inquiry, and
Okay,
then.
Yeah, hold on,
that.
because you're just making it more confusing, and I'm trying to clear this up. Okay, so do you recall in the end of August, a day when Miss Hubble came to school for lunch? Do you remember, do you have any personal recollection? Did you have any personal involvement? Did you see her come in, see her in the lunchroom, anything like that?
I did not personally see her.
Okay. All right, so equally, you never received any note or incident report from mom being there at lunch, correct?
Well, she has to sign in the office, so I was notified that she was there.
Okay.
But I did not personally see her.
Okay,
If I
but you've
remember
not-
correctly.
Okay, but there was no incident report written and documented by any other teacher that there was
Like a
any problem.
concern, correct.
Yeah. Right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so it was sometime after that day when Miss Hubble came to lunch that you then had a conversation with Corey Harkey. You looked at some order, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we've identified two different orders here today, one being the custody order from October 2015, and one being what's marked as a restraining order of September 1st, 2016. And to the best of your recollection, you don't recall seeing the restraining order looking like this. You recall seeing this one that says order from October 15, right? It would be that one, is the
As-
one that you have a memory of.
Yes.
So after mom has lunch, your best memory is that you received that order, you kind of looked at it, you sent it to Miss Harkey, you scan it, is that what you did?
Yes.
And you email it to her?
Mm-hmm.
And Miss Harkey is legal for
Yeah,
Metro,
and
right?
she may have even pulled this from the juvenile court records. I can't remember exactly how that was communicated to her, because she can access this on her own sometimes. But that doesn't matter, right? So Corey read it.
Well, I'm trying to figure out what Corey looked at. So to your best knowledge, was Ms. Harkey looking at the very same order that you are confirming that you looked at? the
To my
October
best
15th?
knowledge, she looked at the document that I referenced on
Okay.
that day.
All right, so after she reviewed that document, she got back to you, was it email, phone call? Do you know?
I want to say email, but we also chatted briefly at some point.
Okay, so you have a short conversation, maybe get an email from her, and based upon the information you get from Ms. Harkey, then you decide that Ms. Hubble cannot be on the school campus,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay, so then, was Ms. Hubble already there when this is transpiring with you and Ms. Harkey? Or is this
No.
a day before, a week before?
We had enough notice that she shouldn't have been there, that we were, and we knew she was coming.
How did you know she was coming?
I believe she said she was coming back for lunch, or she had told us that she was coming. And so we knew she was coming, and we also then found out that she shouldn't be on campus, and so we had enough notice to call a school resource officer and say, can you be here? She's coming. I'm going to need to tell her that she can't be here, and we're not sure how she'll take that news.
Okay. She comes to school for lunch, you get the order, communicate with Ms. Harkey. Ms. Hubble has somewhere in the interim here let you know she's going to come back for school lunch. And before or after you talk to Ms. Harkey, doesn't really matter, but then there's this conversation about she can't be here, but you know when she's coming, and so you knew in advance and were prepared when she showed up.
Yes.
Is that a pretty good summation?
That's a good summation.
All right, and I believe you said that when she communicated with you, that the communication, you said she had argued with you, but part of that communication you said was there was a need for some clarification in the discussions that you were having with Ms. Hubble. Is that correct?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, you said the order needed some clarification. The order said mom was not to come on campus, and then you said, but the order needed some clarification.
From a school perspective, we needed our attorney to interpret it for us.
Okay. And you believe that that order that's sitting in front of you, 2015, which is still in effect today, you believe that that prohibits the mother from coming to the school campus?
I believe that Corey Harkey interpreted the order that she read and tried to give us the best direction that she could.
Okay, so I mean, if Miss Hubble would go over there and have lunch tomorrow, or try to go have lunch tomorrow with Delara, do you believe that based upon that order and the information that you have, that she is prohibited from coming on the school campus?
The direction that I have at this point is she should not be on campus.
Okay. So she didn't have the right to come to school, basically, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you made a comment about her behavior worse in the fall, and when you said that, I, of course, pulled up exhibit number 5 that the judge didn't let you read, and I counted the entries from September to December, and then I counted the dates, the actual dates in which there were discipline entries. I counted those from January to current. And it shows in here that there were 8 dates of entries from September to December and 20 dates of entries from January to April. So based upon basically documentation that you provided, there's really nothing that shows that there's been a stellar improvement at the end of the second half of the year. Is that correct?
I believe what I was referring to when I said the fall was worse as compared to the spring of 2016. So it depends which spring you're referencing. So 2016 spring, there were some events. Fall was worse than spring 2016, to the best of my memory.
Mm-hmm.
This spring has also been a challenge until as of late.
Okay, and you're really talking about just since the IEP, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay, that's all I have.
Ms. Mack, do you have any questions?
Can I have just one follow-up on that? Just one, I promise. Was your understanding that Ms. Hubble could not be on the school campus or could not be there while Delara was there?
While Delara was there.
Awesome, that was one question she promised. Okay.
No. No?
We're done.
Are you sure?
We're done. We're done. I apologize, Ms. Sketsy, for keeping you way past the time you needed to be back in school. I have got to go to a meeting. How long is Ms. Ashford's testimony going to take?
Not gonna. And I'm gonna
All
mark.
right, if you'll ask Ms. Ashford to come in.
I'm gonna ask. I am gonna make a copy of that restraining order. I didn't have an extra copy, and mark that. And then I would like to mark the order that she's referred to it in her testimony. Go
Any
ahead.
objections?
No, no.
All right, 6 for the restraining order, 7 for the order for the school.
Objection for Sheree, because she asked us if we had anything else we needed a copy of.
She said copies. You got a copy of the restraining order and the order, don't
She
you?
said the copy of the other
The
thing.
restraining order.
Yes.
I'll bring that on Friday too, because I need to
Okay,
mark
all
that.
right.
And for Friday, please bring copies of everything you need.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Bring copies. Just bring, if you think you're going to try to put it in evidence, please bring a copy of it. Ms. Ashford, I am going to just apologize tremendously. You've been here all day. I had no idea that it was going to take all day for 2 witnesses.
I understand your
And your testimony apparently is going to be very long as well. So, in fact, I think they are anticipating yours is going to be longer than Ms. Godey's was, which is not going to work for today.
right.
We are set to come back on Friday. Are you available to come back on
I
Friday?
have a meeting to go over psychological results with a parent at 9 o'clock at Gower.
Okay, can you come
But
after that meeting?
I can't.
Awesome. We'll do the phone call first on Friday morning, and then as soon as you get here, we'll take you out.
And that should be between 10:15 and 10:30.
That'll work.
When I could get
We'll take there. I appreciate, again, I apologize. It's
I
court.
understand. Right.
So we'll see you as soon as you can. Come on back on
Okay.
Friday morning.
All right.
All right. We will be in recess until Friday.
Your Honor, I just need the current phone number for Carrie Loy before Friday, because there's something I need to email her if we're gonna potentially have to cross her on it. Well, we're in the middle of a trial, so I kind of have a problem with that. I mean, certainly if she wants to email something, I mean, she can send an email, but, I mean, we're in the middle of a trial now, so having discussions with the witnesses, well, it's something she would need to be able to see when I cross her, and I don't know how I can do that otherwise since she's not here.
Okay, yeah, I mean, you certainly can email or something. I mean, that's.
All right.
Do you have an email address for her?
I will let y'all
Just write it
work
down.
it out. Let's see y'all on Friday.
I'll give her an email address.
Sure.
Oh, perfect, thank
Do all
you.
this out.
That's a fine